Welcome back to Society Case Files. My name is Robert, and today I want to talk about the television show Wednesday, Season 2. If you like this kind of content and you want to see more, please subscribe to the channel and hit the notification bell. Otherwise, I'm going to dive right in. So, Wednesday, Season 2 was broken up into two parts because Netflix are complete maniacs, and I finished watching the first half of it, finally. It's funny because the show barely came out, and I was already seeing people trying to talk about, in news articles, not like random people, but in news articles, people being like, let's talk about that cliffhanger. And I'm like, really, guys? Could we have a minute? It's been out for literally less than a day and a half. But whatever. If you finished it quick, then why not get the content out there? I would have done a review as soon as I could. It's just, I don't think I would have gone out of my way to try and do some kind of like spoiler heavy conversation. Because it's very easy to be scrolling through a bunch of headlines and see something that's a spoiler, and that kind of sucks, especially for a show that's supposed to be basically a mystery. I mean, we want to get as much of this the first time without hearing about it from other people as humanly possible. So in any event, I really liked the first season of Wednesday. I had some problems with it. They were pretty minor. I didn't really go into them very much with even friends and stuff because they didn't matter. Season 2, there are some things that I really like so far and a few things that I'm not as happy about. One of the things that I really like, and I guess this is kind of spoilers, but you might already know it from the trailer and stuff, you do get more of the Addams family themselves besides Wednesday, and that's awesome. I really love all the folks that they got to do that. Along with that, you've got a few more things that focus on the action and the horror aspect of the story. But in a lot of ways, I feel that the first season just made more sense as a show. So while I'm enjoying what we've got of season 2 so far, I do kind of wish that they would have had a longer amount of time to tell the story. Now, I'm not entirely sure how many episodes are coming in the second half of season 2. I'm assuming that it's 4. I didn't bother to look because let me tell you something else. Randomly the other day, I went to look up this exact thing for another show just to see how many episodes were happening, and I got a massive spoiler. So I've learned my lesson, and I just try not to even go on IMDb to find anything because you might get a headline, you might see some comment or anything, and then you just know some massive plot point. And it actually kind of ruined the other show. I wish I could remember what it was. I guess I pushed it out of my mind. Maybe if I was that good at it at the time, I would have been able to finish the show and been surprised. But in any event, with season 2 of Wednesday, there's a couple of really strange things. I guess I'm going to move into some realms of spoilers again. So just know that I am going to talk a little bit about the content of the show. One thing about it is that they really cut back on the amount of classroom time. I actually was about to go on a tirade about how there is no classroom, but then I remembered that there are a few moments where there is a teacher doing a few things. So they didn't get rid of it entirely, but it certainly felt like they did. Like to the point where I have just finished the show and I kind of forgot about it. So in fact, the edit was me ranting about not having it, and then I remembered that there was some, and I cut that out because, I mean, there, you already know I'm an idiot, so that's good enough. But, so we got that, and many of the little conflicts that come up are handled really, really fast. Like, they hit in a way that you're like, oh wow, this is going to be the majority of the episode, and then it's just over. And I thought that was a little strange too. I'm not entirely sure why they took that track. I guess it was like, we have to have something that resembles this. And while we don't necessarily want to put a whole lot of time into it, we need it because that's what would happen in this scenario, even though it's not really our focus. I think that they are also trying a little too hard to produce red herrings and misdirect us. I kind of wish that they weren't throwing so many things at the wall and hoping they stick or trying to confuse us. Because in a lot of ways, some things are a little too obvious because they are trying so hard. And this may only be because I watch so many shows along this line, not necessarily supernatural ones, but mysteries where they try to throw a bunch of curveballs to keep you guessing. And in some cases, the simplest answer is the best. And honestly, if they don't make it the simplest, then it tends to be a little bit more far-fetched. Now, whether or not that's a big deal in a show like Wednesday, that's kind of up for you to decide. I generally am going to give a pass on supernatural shows for being crazy or outlandish. I try at least. There's the occasion where I'm really rooted in reality in a way that makes it hard to accept. It's like nobody would do that. But I mean, hey, I don't live in a world with freaking gorgons that can turn people into stone and dudes that can throw lightning bolts out of their hands. So, I mean, I really do have to try and divorce myself from that. Part of the problem is I watch a lot of normal mystery shows these days. And as a result of that, I really go down this path of, well, is it remotely real? Could it possibly happen? And in the context of these shows, yes, the things that I call into question generally can happen. So it's a little hard to keep that in mind, though. And I think the best supernatural shows make it easier for you to divorce yourself from that thinking. They make sure that you can be like, you know what? It's totally fine. I get it because I understand the rules of this world and they're rooted in this matrix that really was well thought out. And you can kind of sense when that happens. I don't necessarily believe that the Wednesday setting has been well thought out. Sometimes it feels a little arbitrary. It does feel a little bit like they're doing by the seat of their pants GM session in a role-playing game. And maybe that's part of the struggle for me. That said, and I hope this doesn't make it sound like I'm trying to crap on this show because I really, really, really did enjoy it. I thought that everybody was super fun and I had a great time watching it. But I did have these criticisms and I had to talk about them. If I had to say anything that was genuinely negative, the first 2 episodes, I did not like Wednesday as much as every other character. And then in the next 2 episodes, everybody was pretty much on equal footing again, and I really enjoyed them all. I can't really say why without a bunch of stupid spoilers, but maybe you'll kind of see what I'm talking about. And you may disagree, but I hope that you'll at least be like, yeah, I kind of get it. Oddly enough, after I finished the show, I have every episode of The Old Addams Family with John Astin and Carol Jones. And we watched an episode of that. And it's funny because there are some elements of that in this new show, but I really do think that you have to leave that well and truly behind and probably focus more on the films. I think those are what the inspiration is more than the original show, because those were obviously a lot creepier and darker than the original show was. And so it translates from like the first movie with Raul Julia to these shows much, much better. Trying to compare it to the show or thinking that it's an extension of those shows, it really doesn't work. But it was interesting to see it and see just how different those characters really behave. There's a sense in that the conflicts in the Wednesday show would not really happen if the characters are like the ones from the TV show. But that's just my opinion. I'm curious, what do you guys think of Wednesday? Did you like season 1? Are you enjoying season 2? Are you looking forward to the rest of season 2? Have you noticed that they've supposedly announced a season 3? That was a headline I couldn't escape. Let me know in the comments. We'll talk about it. But this is Robert with Society Case Files, signing off.